Did you watch the games this weekend?
I didn't watch as much. We kind of had a lot of running around. So
Yeah.
what are we talking about too much?
So Bills are on bye.
Right.
So week 12, the Chiefs won again in overtime against the Carolina Panthers.
Yeah, I watched some of that game.
The Texans lost to the Titans, so that's an important matchup for AFC seeding.
Yep.
That puts them behind in terms of the top four. Dolphins beat the Colts, and they're barely holding on to their playoff hopes. I mean, they were
Yeah, I did look at the playoffs. How am I? Check one.
They were 3-6 or 2-6.
Yeah, I
rather.
looked to see that they're right outside the playoff.
They're right now the first team in the hunt.
So how's that? Is that all right?
Did you see anything from the Cowboys game?
I watched actually
That
some of the
one
Cowboy
was
games. The Cowboys
unreal.
actually kind of showed up a little bit for a change.
Cowboys showed up, and then I mean there were nearly 50 points scored in the last 4 minutes. It was 13-9 with 4 minutes left in the game. So we'll talk about that, and then Eagles dominated the Rams. Saquon Barkley. He had over 255 rushing yards yesterday. So
One thing I have been reading about is the situation with Detroit. With, why are you doing this to me?
it's bizarre.
It just keeps.
I've never seen it done twice. After that first adjustment, usually I get it in. I've been holding the remote like right here just in case.
I don't know if I put it on TV. If I saved it to the.
The Bills can clinch the division this week. Yeah. So, it's super simple. The Bills have to win, and Dolphins lose. That's it.
I hear that I don't honestly keep up with fall sports, but I've been hearing that the Bills and the Sabres are doing abnormally well this season.
The Sabres, they do what they do every year and have a hot streak to start,
Yeah.
and then they'll fizzle off.
Yeah, no, I mainly watch motorcycle races,
Yeah.
MotoGP, and they're on their off season, so I'm just bored.
That's how I feel when it's not NFL season.
Yeah, they just finished 2 weeks ago.
That's funny. Do they have like a final, do they have like a final tournament or anything like that?
It's like the championship goes throughout the whole season, so it's from race 1 to the final race.
Gotcha.
Until you make up enough of a points difference to get the championship. It can go like some people can wrap it up 6 races early if they're on like that hot of a streak.
Yeah.
Others take it to the final race. It just depends.
Gotcha.
Yeah, this one was actually really cool. It made history. He was
Nice.
the first independent rider.
Oh, that's
to
cool.
get the championship.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I've been paying attention a little bit about like the situation like with Vegas because nobody expected Detroit to do this well.
Yeah.
And it's so now the conspiracy theorists are believing what's going to happen with betting and everything. So
I don't know if I'm familiar with the whole Vegas side of it.
Well, the odds, the initial odds, they weren't expected to be doing as well as they were doing.
Yeah.
So a lot of the odds, a lot of people made bets early on, and if they win the Super Bowl, it's like there's going to be like a lot of betting sites are kind of in trouble.
Oh,
So
I
it's,
see. Okay.
like,
There's a
'cause of
headline from The Athletic.
Yeah.
We hate the Lions. Why
Right.
sportsbooks are scared of a
Right.
Detroit Super Bowl win.
Right. So it's kind of a funny thing. So
That's
like,
pretty good.
Nobody feels bad for the betting websites.
Yeah.
So I may have to reference my phone a couple times, but that's okay, right?
That's completely fine.
So-
That's encouraged.
I
And
don't know
then,
you are, so.
I'm just getting up all my tabs, and then we'll
Yep.
just preview the.
I like the darker color now that it's hardened up a little bit.
That looks great.
We paint a little higher.
Yeah.
The textured panels that are behind me, some of those are going in there, and then we're doing something on this wall and some cool slats and stuff.
I don't know if I've
So-
mentioned it yet, but I love how it's a permanent fixture on that side.
Yeah.
Like it's just
Yeah, it's just there. It was to figure out we save some wall space.
Yeah.
By, floor space by not building something. But we wanted that depth of field, so we could do that shelf. Obviously, the guy next door would be mad if I put a shelf in his hole. And that was the leftover sets. Those are the old sets.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's pretty.
The side that wasn't the textured side.
That's
so,
pretty good.
Yeah, so like we just
Being
built-
resourceful.
We made them taller, and I built like things on the bottom to make them like a foot taller.
That's fun. You wouldn't have never.
And then I
would've
painted
never guessed
higher.
that.
And the corner piece. Look, we're gonna put some plants and shit in there.
Good.
It's not quite. You'll see it by next week. Hopefully, it's gonna be done. So.
Nice. Good.
All right. Well, I'm ready when you.
All
are.
right. Let's rock and roll.
You can do a Thanksgiving thing if you want to.
Yeah, we'll do. We'll talk Thanksgiving and look back at games and shit like that.
The following podcast is recorded and produced by Emerge, a media creators co-op, in affiliation with the network at bicbp-radio.com.
Not yet. Welcome back to the Big YAC. It's your boy Nico Salambeni, and alongside me is the founder of Emerge and podcaster himself. I guess a carpenter, as I'm looking at his new set. Pretty much do it all at Emerge, my man Rich Moreno.
Yeah, I'm my Renaissance man, as it were. Yeah.
Welcome
no,
in.
Thanks,
It's good
for
seeing
having
you.
me.
Yeah, thank you for stepping in last minute. We had to make a
Better
couple
than watching
changes.
The Voice. I probably would have been stuck on the couch watching The Voice with my wife tonight. So.
Yeah, we
Yelling
get
at the
to.
TV. Although I do enjoy Snoop Dogg, I think he's a great host.
You know what? I haven't caught any of it just yet. How is he? Is he good as a judge?
I have to say this is completely off. This is not sports, but Snoop's great.
Yeah.
And also Mike Bublé's on too. He's one
That's
of the
a
judges.
good lineup.
There are a lot of, like I like Michael Bublé a lot anyway, but I think he's funny. I think that he's a good choice. So it's added for a fun dynamic. So it's a terrible it's a stupid show because nobody ever becomes famous from anybody on. I guess probably maybe one or two people have done some stuff, but for the most part, it really is just about the judges self-promoting and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
But Snoop is funny. Like, he's hilarious.
It's
so.
funny to me, not to go off topic. This is the Big Voice podcast, I guess today. But no, it's the Voice. There's so many different competition shows, and growing up, I watched America's Got Talent, and that was great. I feel like that's kind of.
I think
it's
for
different.
anybody's exposure, it's like building it's something to put on your resume.
Like I was on The Voice.
Right, that you're on The Voice. Okay, like you're gonna get work because of that. You may not become the next whoever, but you're gonna get work about it. And it's just like it's just like think of when we talk about these athletes.
Yep.
Whatever they can do, you put in the work. You've got your new gig, and maybe that new gig is supported by the fact you're doing podcasts, and they're supporting each other. So it's it's all the work you put in. So it's not supposed to be easy to become famous. If it was easy, everybody become it.
That's a great way to put it because
That's
it's
why
so easy to get up there now.
For the audience out there, I'm a big soccer fan, as most people probably know. And it's funny because I'll watch soccer and you yell at the screen, "This guy effing sucks." He doesn't suck, okay? There's 20 teams in the Premier League, and how many? So they don't suck. He's not very good right now. He's not having a great day. You're mad at him because maybe he shouldn't be on your team, but clearly he's in the best league in the world. He doesn't suck. But it's funny, we all do that with sports. This guy sucks. He doesn't suck. He's in the top whatever.
He's a 1% athletic.
1% of people that ever played the sport. But he's he dropped the ball. So
sometimes literally.
That in my case, I'm really mad at my team right now. So
it's funny. I told him to join me for my football podcast. He's like, "Yeah, I'd love to join a football podcast," and here we are.
Oh, I thought we were talking about the other football.
Yeah, exactly. But hey, let's talk about it.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming in. Before we kind of dive into the world of the NFL, especially in Week 12, let's talk about Emerge as a whole. Emerge is growing,
thanks.
and there's a lot going on right now.
For if you haven't been to the new Emerge where we are today, I hope you come out. We're having an open house on next Thursday. What is that? December 4th. From 6 to 8, and then we're just gonna hang out after and do a Thursday night football watch party. So if you haven't got a chance to come out to Emerge and see, we were discussing the fact that we really have now about 7 different podcast spaces that we utilize.
Unreal. It's unlike anything else in Niagara Falls, at least.
And we're using all of them now because one of the great things is that people come in and we sit down with them and we figure out how to meet their needs. So, we're not cookie cutter in it. Like this set that we're sitting on is used by 4 different podcasts, and I feel we're able to give everybody their own feel and their own look. And then the ones we have this great lobby that my son designed, and people walk in and they're like, "Oh, that's like a coffee shop in New York City," and that makes us very happy because we do feel it has a great vibe. And we've done some events out there, and we have a huge photography space in the back, and we had just had a photographer here for 4 days doing photo shoots, my niece actually, but this is kind of the dream to have a place. So if you want to create content, whether it's a podcast or just video production or rap battles or whatever it is you want to do, like we think we can make your needs. And obviously we have this great photography space too for video production. And so you were one of the guys here when we looked at the space back in January.
Yep.
I've always considered you to be one of my core creators. I trust you, and this is a no-brainer. And so we've been working on it since about April. And,
almost every day you've been on it.
Yeah,
You've been here almost every day.
Now I don't have to be here every day, but it really is. I'm really happy with where we are. So again, if you're out there and if you're interested in being involved in podcasting or content, because the podcast, you got a podcast now, and but we're doing all kinds of different types of content now, and we have everything from Bitcoin to we're starting a theater podcast in December. We got a mom. We've got a little bit of everything, and I'm excited to just keep moving forward and just keep providing good production opportunities for people.
It's been so cool. This show, we're over 100 episodes now, over 2.5 years into it.
Shout out to Big YAC, you and Mike, for
Appreciate
giving me a shot early on, trusting that I could figure it out, and giving us all time to develop. So you and Tank and then some other pods that have come along since then. But you and Tank were just instrumental in just letting us kind of beta test this concept.
And that's exactly it. Kind of what I was going into is, it's been so cool as a creator watching myself and Emerge grow just from where it is now to where it was into where it's going in future. Like, again, putting all of that effort, that time, those resources into the photography studio. I mean, that's an additional horizon and an additional service that you really are able to build on.
It's
in
opening
this
us
new space.
up to for a while. It felt like it was only people that I knew that were calling, and now we have a bunch of people that I didn't know before that found me because they saw something or they saw somebody's podcast or whatever. And now I'm just meeting random people that I would have never known before, and they walk in They don't know who I am. I wasn't their high school teacher or something like that. So it's like, I don't feel like somebody's doing it because they owe me a favor or something. They've got their own goals, and that's kind of fun, especially when you're building a new relationship with a customer, so to speak. And that's great. And it's kind of inspired me to I'm starting my own podcast.
Sir,
finally.
Talk about it.
It's
if
going
you're
to be
ready
called
to share some news.
It's going to be called Why We Pod, and it's going to be a podcast about podcasting.
Boom.
There aren't a lot of those, actually. It's going to be like, and what it will be is we'll come onto your set, and like when you're a guest, and we'll switch chairs.
Yeah.
And I'll host from your spot, and we'll talk about your podcast, why you do it, what inspired you to do broadcasting, and then I just because I think there's a common theme about everybody. And if you come out to our open house, hopefully just about everybody will be here, and you can talk to other podcasters. And I think it's a nice opportunity for you guys all to kind of realize we're all part of Emerge, And and then Christian, my son, and I have kind of rebranded Next of Kin. That was how I got into podcasting, was the podcast I do with my son. And we finally kind of got back. We've been so busy with this place. We finally did a new episode. We finally launched our TikTok. So we're Next of Kin, Emerge. We're on TikTok now, and our TikToks did really well the first couple that I launched. So
nice.
So I'm learning new. So I mean, that's the thing for us, that you have to keep learning new things. So that's kind of what this year's been amazing. And I know it's Thanksgiving week, but I'm super appreciative to everybody that's lets me play around over here for them. So,
Good.
yeah.
Well, congratulations to everything that's going on, and
thanks for being here.
We're super glad to continue on and
people
and
are
see
like, talk sports.
What did I come here for?
Well,
But
we have nothing to talk about because we only care about the Bills, right?
That's right.
So,
it's bye week. We gotta fill in the.
I was no, I'm not watching any football this week, and the Bills aren't playing. But no, it was an interesting week. It is an interesting. Because you're a Bills fan.
Yep.
I'm a football fan in the sense that I mean, obviously I root for the Bills.
Yeah.
That's my team. But I'm not like all in. I'm not Bills Mafia. I'm not anymore. I was in the 90s, and that kind of broke my heart. So like I still root for them, and I still get nervous. But it's nice when they don't play, right? Because you feel like you can relax a little bit.
You get the same feeling when the Bills, especially with all the primetime games they've been having,
Right.
where you can sit down on a Sunday afternoon, turn on Red Zone, enjoy yourself, and enjoy football. But especially now when the Bills don't play, well, there's no stakes at hand. You can kind of just, there's obviously like seeding, and you're rooting for other teams' wins and losses.
When they won that Thursday night game, it felt like they were off that week.
Exactly.
Because, all right, we won. So
and then we can sit back, kick your feet up, watch the rest of the Sunday slate.
Yeah, it's nice once they're done. I hate when they have a Monday night game because then you're kind of like all weekend.
The anticipation of it all. Yeah, exactly.
And no, I mean, it was kind of a fun weekend to not. Although I wanted my next favorite thing to watch right now, besides the Bills play, is to watch Aaron Rodgers lose. So I mean, it's disappointing because they were on the bye this week.
Yep.
So it was kind of fun. It wasn't fun to just because I figured that game would have been on.
Yep.
So we could have watched Aaron
Oh,
Rodgers
it's must-see TV right now.
randomly look at the camera like, why didn't how come you didn't catch that? Like, I'm like, 'cause your pass sucked.
Yeah, oh my, he's looking old, and they're cleaning house in New York, and both New York teams are cleaning house right now.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that that Dayball and Joe Shine aren't going to last this offseason.
I mean, I love the non-football part of football almost as much as the football. I love Twitter and articles and Monday morning, watching Stephen A. and like just I enjoy so much of the non-football game. It's almost like
Everything
wrestling.
that comes out of it.
Like it's almost like when I used to watch wrestling. The matches were fine, but most of the behind-the-scenes stuff always interested me more than and that's kind of the fun part. Like all these articles about like where Danny Dimes going to go now. I'm like, nowhere. He should not go anywhere. Like if he goes anywhere, it's going to be like he's going to be fighting for a backup position.
That's exactly it.
and just and I love that Aaron Rodgers has basically torched that entire organization. So it'll take another 5 years because they fired the general manager now too, right?
Yep. No head coach, no general manager. It's just Aaron Rodgers, and and I forget what exactly the quote was, but long story short, they're probably not going to bring Aaron Rodgers back next year.
Well, there's all these stories, and this was part of the fun stuff I was enjoying all weekend. Was like that they want, like, there's this rumor going around that they're trying to get him to go in for a medical test so they can put him on IR. Instead of benching him, they don't want to embarrass him by benching him. And he's like, I'm not going for physical. So it's like he's avoiding, like, a subpoena.
So fitting for him,
like,
too.
He's like, he's trying to avoid being like, no, I'm not, I'm not going to the doctor's office because he's afraid. He came in and his shoulder's bad or something. He's got,
I'll say
like,
it's a very
osteoporosis or something.
a very political thing of him to do.
My body, my choice. So yeah, it was kind of like he's avoiding being benched. It's great. It's like, if I don't answer the phone, I can't be benched.
I can't be fired if I don't go to the office. Yeah.
So yeah, that's great. And then, because then there was another one about making fun of, like, Brett, that he's following the footsteps of Brett Favre.
Like, almost to a T.
So he has to go to Minnesota next year.
and then he has to commit some horrible acts of fraud to
Did
finish off
bought
the
an
cycle.
Aaron Rodgers jersey?
Who did?
No, do you know any that bought an Aaron Rodgers jersey?
You know who I think that has one? Alan Garcia.
Okay.
That's got to be the only guy that has a.
I remember when in high school when everybody bought Brett Favre New York Jets jerseys. I remember.
I think that would be the only person. I don't know any Jets fans.
Yeah.
Outside, I know a couple Jets fans, but no one with an Aaron Rodgers jersey. Mm-hmm. And I think Alan is just a big. He is a big Packers fan, but I also think he's also a huge Aaron Rodgers fan.
If you're an Aaron Rodgers fan, I mean, I will respect that. I mean, I don't have a problem with you respecting Aaron Rodgers, but you also have to know when your guy's done. And
this is
I
40.
remember watching Joe Montana at the end, and you're like, Joe, like, man, you won these Super Bowls and you look terrible. You just go home, like, and just that's kind of what he looks like now.
He looks real, and just more on Aaron Rodgers. There was a biographer that did a book on him in this offseason, and it's on my list of things to read. And it's called, like, Inside the Mind of Aaron Rodgers.
I think we're gonna get a cool, like,
he is
sports
good.
miniseries.
A 30 for 30.
Yeah,
I mean, give it a couple years after he retires, and just his whole career is just so, in a nutshell. Like, it's such an interesting perspective.
And it'll be interesting in 10 years how we talk about Aaron Rodgers, and the Brady era, and all that stuff. Eli Manning and all these players, these quarterbacks that we've had. And if his name will hold up as somebody who was truly great, or will some of this silly stuff that he did at the end of his career tarnish the reputation? Whether people can decide whether he has earned that reputation or not. Like, is he? And that's what I think history has to decide. Is he truly? He had some great seasons, but, like, did he not achieve as much as he should have, so to speak? And I think that's ultimately what your legacy's about. And that's kind of the interesting thing that I love about sports. Again, outside of sports, is that type of stuff. Like, who is the greatest of all time, or like, like we talk about LeBron in basketball, but, like, we don't talk about Curry as much.
Right.
And it to me, it's hilarious.
He's kind of,
because I
like,
think in 10, 15
about,
years, we're going to really say, man, we had a time period here where we had LeBron James.
Absolute greatness.
Yeah. Like,
you look, I mean, even just, like, I don't know, you look at, like, 8-10 years ago when you had, and not to dive into basketball, but I mean, you had LeBron, you had Curry, you had Kobe Bryant, you had, and then that's not even including, like Giannis or, like, Jokic or like, all of those guys that started coming up at the end of that era, and they were all in the league together at one point in time. And it relates back to here where you had, I mean, you're talking about Roethlisberger, and you're talking about, like you said, Eli Manning, and then Drew Brees, Phillip Rivers. Yeah. I mean, Matt Ryan, even, you could throw his name into that conversation.
I mean, there's definitely some, it's funny, like, there's always been those guys that were in sports at a certain time when the greatest one was there.
Yep.
Michael Jordan. These other guys that never, couldn't win because they happened to come out when LeBron, I mean, when Jordan was winning everything, and he had, that Bulls team. He didn't do it by himself. And then you think about, like, even in hockey for that period of time, Gretzky was the greatest player, and nobody could even touch him. Messier, obviously, is very close. But you have that season, and now we're into this era now where, and I love Josh Allen. I think he's tremendous, but he hasn't won anything yet. And until he wins something, he's got to win one, or he won't ever even, like, after he's done, 10, 15 years after he's done, yeah, he'll have broke some records, but like it won't mean anything if he didn't win anything because they'll say, yeah, but Mahomes won everything. Right. He couldn't beat Mahomes in the big games that mattered. So until he beats Mahomes, then I know it's a whole team. But until the Bills beat the Chiefs and they get to go to the Super Bowl or at least the AFC Championship game, it will always be up. Raining on the.
That's an insane
yes,
amount of
rain. Yes, that's rain on our flat steel roof. Something we didn't expect. But that's kind of like, to me, that's kind of the fun part of what this weekend was.
Yeah,
we had some
news
great
cycle
games
as a whole
this weekend too.
And
that were just fun to watch if you just like football.
That's exactly it. Let's dive right into them.
Yeah.
So going back into Week 12, I mean, I want to cap it off with the Chiefs because we're talking about Patrick Mahomes. This has been such a weird season for Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs as a whole. This offense is not good by any means. This team can figure it out. Travis Kelce looks old, and now they're finally kind of forcing the ball to him and giving him those plays, and he's still Travis Kelce. But, again, this is probably going to be his last season. I mean, taking a look at it all, like, you did it all. You have multiple Super Bowl rings. You're dating the most successful woman in America right now.
He doesn't look.
It's time to hang it up.
He looks very tired.
Yep.
And they squeaked one out. Really.
To the Panthers. I mean, you're talking about
that game should have never been close.
No, this game should have been at least by 2 scores. But we know Kansas City, they don't blow teams out. I mean, their point differential for their record I don't know the exact record, but this has got to be a record where a team that is 10-1 has this small of a point differential going into.
I mean, I'm not going to get into they're getting breaks and stuff because every team gets breaks. Like I think we should all agree, and I posted this on something. Can we all just agree the officiating just stinks? It's
across the board. Horrible.
You can watch this game, and I don't have I don't really have a horse in the race. There's teams I don't ever want to see. I don't want to see the Jets or the Dolphins ever make it to the Super Bowl ever again, obviously. And on the NFC side, I hate the Cowboys just because they beat us twice in the '90s. So, and they're America's team that always bothered me, like that garbage. But I don't really have teams that I hate. So I watch these games pretty open-minded, and I'm like, how is that not holding? How is that not pass? How is that not roughing the passer? How is that not illegal hands to the face? How is that not? How is that play not delay a game? There's so many things that you see. That's not pass interference. That is pass interference. Like, that's offensive pass interference. Like, there's so many. That's out of bounds. Like, they're so bad. The officiating is bad, and I watch a lot of sports. I think the NFL's officiating is the worst in any professional sport.
There's so many subjective rules.
Yes.
And that's the problem.
And they counter each other.
Exactly.
So I mean, that's why I don't want to get into that with Kansas City because there were you could easily say in the Bills game.
I was just gonna say I got to go to the Bills and Chiefs game, and I was, even just seeing it from the field. I was looking around, like there were a lot of people in the game, and they're like, why is this or like people were getting mad over good calls or bad or calls that shouldn't have went the Bills' way, and them getting a call.
There's the one pass that everybody was talking about, but in the very first Kansas City drive, there was definitely a hold.
Yeah,
that they should have never. That should have been they should have been whatever and added 10 onto it and redone the play, and I forget what it was now. But I watched it, and I went back and watched that in later, and I was like, yeah, that's not called. So there's always stuff that's not called, and it's what drives me crazy is when it's like there's the rule that if it's in the last 2 minutes or the last whatever, we have to review it. Like that one, whether it was a catch or not in the Bills Chiefs game. They didn't review it.
Yeah. And
how did it not get reviewed?
And that was
it should have been reviewed.
Yes.
Like they can say, oh, they looked at him. Like
New York should have called that one down. And that was a clear situation of within 2 minutes.
Just for the good of the league.
Yeah.
It should have been reviewed.
An interesting one that kind of talking back at that game and talking about the officiating is field goals. And that's something you don't really talk about as much. So I couldn't tell from where I was in the game, but I was watching the broadcast afterwards, and it appeared that Tyler Bass, that first touchdown when he missed the extra point, all the announcers said that was good. They saw it and they thought it was good, and then the officiating crew both said that was no good. And then you look back at the replay, and it's too tight to determine. And I've never seen like a reviewed extra point. And I feel like that's just something that should be.
And I do this all the time on podcasts, and people must watch these and get mad. This guy, how he always pulls this shit up. So in soccer, and in hockey, we have things. We have a chip in the ball. So there's a way of knowing in professional soccer if the ball's – so in soccer, it's not break the plane. The ball has to be – like in hockey, it has to be completely over the line.
Yep.
And there is technology that they use to determine that.
Yep.
How is there not technology for supposedly the biggest league in the world? How do they not have a technology of really knowing for sure whether the football broke the plane, regardless of the bodies? Like, there should be a way of GPS or whatever, and even the same thing of scoring a touchdown. I mean, scoring like a field goal. How is there not technology to determine if that? Because we were watching that game, and there's been a few this year where the ball was so high. How do they know?
What's crazy to me, the craziest part about this, there are chips in the ball. There is, and they don't use them for that situation. They use them for these fancy next gen stats, and they have like all they promote their AI product, and yet we don't have the simple thing of like how do we
fuels like hate for the game. And I don't even want to speak conspiracy theories. It's hate for the league. Like, I love watching football, but like I refuse to buy like NFL's like licensed gear because I don't want to give anything to the NFL. Like, I'll buy a T-shirt that says Bill's Mafia, but I'm not buying like something with the NFL logo on it per se because of like that obnoxious like it's like come on like and they allow us to have these stupid conversations.
Yes.
That they should not be having.
Yes. That is a great way to put it. Why, as the most money, like as a league that makes the most money, most revenue building sport in the United States, why don't they have a way to have accountability for it?
Yeah.
Like, or at least be able to explain it a little bit better than a Twitter account saying
other
this
sports
is why
you
we
hear
chose
about
this.
an official being like essentially benched for a period of time. Or he won't get to be the main ref. He has to get play do the sidelines, or he has to be a timekeeper or something because of mistakes that he's made. We never hear any accountability for anything within the ref association. And again, in all the other sports, I think there is that.
Yeah.
Like they'll come out with an announcement. Like, again, even we have video aided review in soccer, and we don't hear what the officials are saying, but the announcers of the game do.
Yeah.
So the broadcast announcers will say, well, we can hear what there's, and they will say, so it's open. It's not a closed process. Like, there are outside people that have nothing to do with the league that are listening to what the officials have to say when they're determining if something's an offsides or a penalty kick or whatever it is. I mean, like, just have a little bit more transparency. Yeah. You know that there's all this stuff about betting and all this other crazy stuff, and Vegas always wins and stuff. Like, why don't you want to have more accountability? Like, and that just feels like, well, they don't want us to have accountability because it's fixed. Like, right? Yeah. It just fuels more. Like, that's why I was glad that, like, at least in the Chiefs game, it didn't seem like this week there was anything. No. They just stunk this week.
Yeah. It is kind of funny to me that we talk about them stinking and yet they still scored 30 points. It's like they just keep finding ways to win.
But that game, there's no reason Carolina should have been in that game ever.
No, they should not have hung in there at all.
But when it comes right down to it, I don't think the Chiefs care.
They know
they're going to win their division. They know they're going to go to the playoffs. And they're going to get to the playoffs, and they're going to be great. Want to know why? Because they know how to win in the playoffs. Why? Because they've done it. So they go into the playoffs the most relaxed team in the league, just like the Patriots used to do. Yeah. The Patriots are going, and Brady's like, whatever. I've done this like 27 times. I'm just going to do it again, and that's what it'll be. Yep. There was a lot of, like when the Chiefs beat the Bills, there was a lot of stuff on the Kansas City. Because I love to go to other people's Twitters. I don't post anything, but I like to go to other people's Twitters. And they were all like, the Chiefs didn't care if they lost this game because they knew they still have the lead.
Yep.
And they don't really want to show Buffalo too much. So they
still control their own destiny.
Didn't. Yep. So you let Josh Allen run down, make your guys. Like, they didn't let Josh Allen run in. Like, Josh Allen had the best play of the season. There's no play better in the season so far than that. There's other
you factor
amazing
in
catches,
the moment, and you factor
but that's a
in
game-winning. That's the best game-winning play we've seen all year, right? But the Kansas City fans are kind of funny. They're like, well, they just don't want to. They don't want to show them too much because we're going to see that will beat them in the playoffs. And part of me is like,
I see the
guy.
angle. Like I kind of see the angle.
So it's not the worst thing. So. What else did you watch?
So moving into the Texans, they fell to the Titans. So this is a huge matchup.
Yeah,
for
that's a big game.
It's a conference game. It's a divisional game. So there's a lot of tiebreakers going on. And if we want to talk about specifically the Bills, this is huge because the Bills now have a game and a half lead for them. Now the Texans have the head-to-head tiebreaker, so Buffalo still controls its own destiny going into this in seeding against the Titans, or against the Texans rather. Buffalo is. They unfortunately cannot control their own destiny just yet for the number 1 seed, but they control their They control their destiny for the number 2 seed as it currently stands.
Right.
So this was huge in the fact that Texans, gives them a little bit of breathing room between the two teams. They can drop a game and still secure themselves on to that number 2 seed.
Yep.
And it's the same thing with Baltimore right now. Baltimore 7-4. They just
They've
dropped
not
one.
looked good.
No, I wish that the Bills could get a redo at that game. Honestly, I wish the Bills could get a redo at both the Ravens and the Texans games because this team is so much better than they were those weeks in the past. But yeah, the Ravens, they drop one and they're sitting at 7-4 as well.
Well, I feel like Buffalo. This is a weird thing to say, but I feel like they got screwed with their opening schedule.
Yep.
They had all those weird games at weird times. Plus, they had a pretty heavy schedule. And I think if you compare their schedule in their first 4 or 5 weeks to anybody else in the first 4 or 5 weeks, they had the craziest schedule in the first 4 or 5 weeks.
And,
I don't think that's. I don't think that's anybody. Stick it to them kind of thing. I did not expect them to do as well as they did. I don't think I think most of us, if you're a reasonable person, did not expect them to only drop those 2 games. Yep. I mean, they could have easily gone 1-4 in the first 5 games.
Yeah.
Like they did not look great. Part of it is because I think you have lack of preseason now. Teams are figuring things out even in their first and second games. Especially when you got a bunch of new moving parts. And so yeah, I think if they would have got to see the Ravens like in week 7
12.
Versus whatever week it was.
Especially the Texans. I mean, if you took the Texans this week as opposed to week 5 coming off that loss to the Ravens, it would have been a completely different turnout.
I'm not saying I think the defense is good, but I think the defense is playing very well.
Yeah.
I wish they give up too many like
Chunk
drives
plays.
or whatever. They should shut drives down more. But that was a good game. I mean, that was a fun game to watch. I didn't see the whole game. I was kind of flipping around with I was watching highlights of that game. And it was like that's a good back and forth game.
You're talking the Texans.
The Texans,
Titans.
yeah.
It was good. It came down. I mean, the Texans almost took the lead late in the game. They had this C.J. Stroud. What it came down to was there was a really good punt that left the Texans on their own 5-yard line, and then C.J. Stroud got backed up onto the 1, and then Titans got a safety and that was that, which was huge. I mean, it was a feel-good win for the Titans. It's always great to beat a division rival and play spoiler. This game didn't matter to them. I mean, they're already looking at Shedeur Sanders or Quinn Ewers highlights.
Right.
they're already looking at the draft, and you know what? I think some fans would even look at that game and be like, why'd you try so hard?
Well, you want to. I mean,
again, it dials back to these guys. They don't have that mindset. These guys
here's the funny
playing,
thing, though. Like, people say that all the time. That drives me crazy because you're on that team, okay? And at the end of the season, the team has to get better if they were that bad. So you're going to get fired. Some of you you're not all coming back.
Exactly.
Right? Like the Sabres.
Like
they finally got rid of some guys this year that were like, thank God. Like, why? And the fans were mad. I'm like, and that's, to me, is funny. Like, if I'm a player on this team, I'm fighting for my career.
Yeah.
I'm not guaranteed anything. So, there are guys that shut down. I think if you're a superstar and you've got you've got a locked up contract, sure. And I'm not even sure who's saying those teams would have those things. Or even if you're like, I want to get out of here and I'm going to go someplace else. If you stink, you're not going to get what you want in a trade or if you get cut or whatever. So I don't think there's too many guys that quit.
Yeah.
I think there are those that do, but I think most of them, you see guys like breaking their helmets and stuff at the end of the game. That's not, they're mad.
Yeah.
They want it. Most of these guys, you think about it, if you are playing in the NFL, you probably won a lot in your life.
Yeah.
You probably were the best guy on your Tyro football team.
You go back to back
your
to
high school
Pee-wees.
team. You probably scored 100 points. That guy's probably got the record for the most whatevers in his high school. Well, if he's the defensive guy, he probably has the most sacks in section whatever, right?
Exactly.
Like that guy went to college and probably was
dominated that
dominant
level.
in his group, whatever, and he's the Pac-10 or whatever he's in, right? It might even be a national championship. Like these guys are used to being, and then they all of a sudden they get to the NFL and they're on the
Carolina
Jags,
Panthers or the Jaguars. Yeah.
You're on, and or you're not even a starter. So I think these guys, yes, the ownership sometimes does things to make sure they get the low seed. Maybe the coaches do, but not. I don't think it's the players. I don't think there's a guy.
It's never
I don't
the
think
players.
there's a wide receiver dropping a pass in the end zone because he wants to get a better quarterback next year. I just find that really, really hard to believe. And if you're the quarterback, you're trying to.
Right. Again, you're playing.
You don't
for
want to
money.
be the backup. You don't want to be Danny
Exactly.
Dimes. So but
playing safety in the midweek.
Yeah.
Moving on to the Dolphins, they keep on. They're hanging on to their playoff hopes. They're sitting
good
there.
for them. I mean,
they've won the last 3 in a row.
Yeah.
They're sitting at 5 and 6, which
they
is a
look
much
pretty
more
good.
respectable
They haven't,
2 and 6.
I mean, they beat the Patriots. I'm not going to crown them, anything. Like they beat the Patriots. But that's a good divisional win for them. It keeps them in striking distance. Like for a nobody thinks they're winning the division, but like they're one. I looked at the thing. They're right outside. They're the top team looking in. But normally this time it's a lot of teams fighting for that playoff spot. There's a bit of a gap this year.
There is.
In the AFC specifically. I never really pay attention to the NFC. But AFC, there's definitely I think the team that's currently got the 8th spot, right?
Is the Dolphins.
Oh, are they in right now?
So they have the 8th, so they're the first team out.
They're the first team out. So the 7th team has how many wins?
It's
I
the
looked
Broncos
earlier.
right now that
The
are
Broncos,
7 and
and that
5.
makes me nervous actually. I don't want to play the Broncos in the playoffs.
No. Oh, hell no. That's the thing where it's like if the Broncos are the 7 seed and the Bills are the 2 seed, good luck. I mean, you're going to be fighting tooth and nail just to start off the play. It reminds me back when the Bills made their AFC Championship run when they had to face like the Colts when they were getting hot at the end of the year. And that was a game came down to the last drive. And it's like for a 7 seed, you don't want that. You want to be able to have
That's
a light
the
week.
one time where if I'm the coach and I'm going into week 18 and I'm in the 2nd seed and I'm scared about the 7th seed team.
Yep.
I'm benching everybody.
Yeah. I'm taking I don't
and I'm
care
hoping
about
we lose because who cares? Because maybe the team that's will end up in 3rd, and maybe I'd rather play the 6th seed team versus the 7th seed team because I know how to beat the 6th seed team versus the 7th team. Oh boy, and you don't want to be the, but also at the same time, when's the last time like a wild card team won a game? I mean, it's so
the
rare.
7 seed.
No, but even
just-
just wild cards in general, like the wild cards generally don't win.
Yeah.
It's I don't remember what it is right now, but I remember last year we looked at it, and it's very like the percentage of a wild card team beating a division leader is really low.
I'm looking at this bubble right now for the playoffs, and it's like we mentioned, it's tough in the AFC. I mean, you're talking then you look at it, and then you're like, do I want to be the 3 seed? Because as it currently stands, the Ravens are the 6 seed. The Steelers are currently the 3 seed. The Steelers have the lead in the division. That big game a few weeks back was paramount.
We
to
can
that.
beat the Ravens. I'm in a playoff game. Buffalo beat the Ravens at home.
Yep.
I'm not as worried about that.
The Chargers,
Especially by that season, I feel like, Derrick Henry's amazing, but end of the season you're banged up. You don't look like you do in the first week of the playoffs. You don't look the same way you do.
Right.
And Buffalo's getting healthier.
Yep.
So everybody was so nervous about the Steelers last year, and that was nothing.
What we're currently talking about, the Harbowl is going on right now.
Yep.
And so going into this, the Chargers are currently the 5th seed, and the Ravens are currently the 6th seed. This is a huge matchup for seeding. Again, we had just as much as it was important for the seeding with the Texans and Titans game, this is almost, you could argue, this is even bigger because this is talking about seeding for the 5 or 6 or, in this AFC, the 7th seed.
It's so darn early to worry about this stuff because you just don't know. You just don't know what's going to happen with anybody. You don't know. I think the Chiefs may lose another game. I forget who. I looked at their schedule.
16-1 is a very difficult record to have. So
I looked at their schedule, and they have a couple tough ones coming up. I forget who it was. And Buffalo's got the easiest schedule left.
They have outside of
not saying they're going to win.
Lions.
I'm not saying they're going to run the table. But they have a pretty easy schedule.
So, looking at the Chiefs, they have the Raiders, which for whatever reason usually give them a tough time.
Yep.
They have the Chargers, so that's 2 divisional games back to back. They have the Raiders, the Chargers, and then they have the Browns, Texans, Steelers, Broncos, which are all. I mean, we're talking about Texans playoff team, Steelers playoff team, Broncos playoff team.
Who's Buffalo have left?
You look at Buffalo. I know they have they have New England twice.
Yeah. Okay.
So
thanks.
they have Niners. This Sunday,
which means nothing to them in a lot of ways because it's NFC.
Exactly.
It won't have an impact on them not they want.
They're actually on a
game.
3-game NFC stint right now. So they have the Niners, the Rams, and the Lions. The Lions is far and away the toughest game.
Yeah, the Lions
schedule.
is the toughest game we have.
Could be a Super Bowl preview.
And the Dolphins game. The Dolphins are playing well. The Dolphins are. We go there.
No, Dolphins. We already swept the Dolphins.
Oh, that's right. We already played them twice.
We have Patriots, Jets, Patriots after that.
So that's what I mean. Like we have really one real. I'm not saying we're going to win out, but I feel like the Jets is. The Lions. That's the Super Bowl preview, right?
That's exactly.
That's what everybody. That's what the NFL keeps saying, or people around in the league are saying.
And so, what kind of going off of this right now is the Bills have a chance already to clinch the division this week.
If they win and Miami loses,
that's how you clinch right then and there.
Who does Miami play?
They face the Packers, who are red hot right now, and just shellacked the 49ers. Yeah. So it's all very well. It's a pretty easy scenario to happen. And then again, I think that almost changes your whole perspective as if you're the Bills, where you're kind of like, okay, you have Matt Milano that's around the corner from coming back. Okay, do we ease him back in? How easily? So we have him fresh for January. Okay, take a look at Von Miller's snaps.
You have to be very careful about this in sports, though. You can't. To me, the NFL, actually any league with playoffs, it's all about peaking for the playoffs.
Yep.
And if you take your foot off the gas, and one of the biggest complaints we've had about the Bills in recent years they would be like scoring 50 points one week, and then get to like December, and they're scoring like 20.
Yep.
And they're not scoring like they were. And, whether, Stefan's not doing the things that he was doing or whatever, but it seems like to me, they need to just keep getting better.
Yeah.
They haven't peaked yet, in my opinion. I think that the Chiefs was the beginning of that. That was a huge, especially since everybody's, besides Bills Mafia, has written him off this year. I mean, Josh Allen's overrated. He's going to suck without, Stefan. And okay, what's great about this is, and again, if you're a Josh Allen, he's overrated thing, you're just eating crow right now because
he looks like the best quarterback in football right now.
He beat Mahomes. Mahomes is statistically. He's not undefeated anymore. He's only one game ahead. So if anybody's saying, "Well, Mahomes is still the guy to beat," then just don't have the category anymore. Because if it doesn't, because last year Josh wasn't even in consideration because he had too many interceptions.
Yep.
And Mahomes is 5 or 6 more, so he should be out of the consideration, right? Right. Exactly. I mean, based on what everybody said last year, and right now, Lamar doesn't look great. So I mean, they'll probably give it to Jared Goff or something just to piss people off, but I don't think Josh Allen cares if he's the MVP. I don't think he cares.
He cares about a Super Bowl ring more than anything.
there are guys that like if it was like there's a lot of quarterbacks in this league. That's all they care about. I don't think Lamar. I don't think Josh. I don't think Jared Goff. I don't think Mahomes. I don't think those guys care.
No, they're all about winning the game. I mean, all that matters is the big one. It's not about personal accolades. It's about how many Super Bowl rings could I have? How can I be the best for my team, and how can I have?
These guys want to be golfing. They want to till they have to, Dal about that Dallas game.
So, what's crazy to me was this game.
This was like they had to win it, or like talk about guys getting fired.
This game was I think it was 16-9 Dallas with 4 minutes left in the game.
Right.
And that game ended up being a score of 34-26 Dallas, including in the last 4 minutes of the game, 2 special teams touchdowns. 2 special teams touchdowns, 2 kickoff return touchdowns for Dallas off of a crate.
That was one of the funniest things. I mean, I love plays like that. Even I hate Dallas. Plays like that are funny when you get like
it's an absolute circus.
Yeah, like when the guy fumbles the ball, he drops the ball on the kickoff, and then he picks it up, and then he just runs 97 yards. I'm like, okay, there you go. But,
and then the onside kick, which return touchdown. Yep. And what the craziest thing to me too is that kickoff return touchdown came fresh after a Terry McLaurin unfathomable 86-yard. Luckily, you know what it reminded me of? It was the Minnesota Miracle back when Stephon Diggs caught that. It was just it was improbable, and it was an 86-yard, just perfect pass. The guys, Dallas' defense weren't even blocking him, and then of course special teams goes off and kicks off another.
Good job,
kickoff
Dallas,
touchdown.
but it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. They're not going anywhere. They're not winning anything. HDMI won. I think if we try that, probably might get our picture back. Technology drives us crazy sometimes. So,
we'll see if we can get reliable on here.
Stupid Vizio TVs. So far, I guess they're not sponsoring your podcast now. So sorry about that. They were about to call. Nick?
Oh, darn, hang on.
Screw that guy. So, no, I mean, it's... I'm very Stephen A. when it comes to Dallas. That's why I like Stephen A. so much. I know it's over the top, and it's just become ridiculous now because it's so fake, but I don't care because it just makes Dallas fans so angry.
It just makes TV fun. It makes TV fun to watch.
It's a stupid sport. I mean, it really is. And, no, I mean, like, I don't know, like, it's your team stinks, and I'm glad if I'm a Dallas fan and I'm watching the game, I'm glad they won. But you have to know you stink. Like you're not going. This isn't like the week where it's going to change things. If I'm a Packers fan, or I don't know, like somebody. I mean, let's try to think about even like a Steelers fan that nobody took them seriously this year, right? They're not winning anything, and here they are. They're looking really good.
They're looking like they could. They're in striking distance.
I mean, Cleveland has won a couple games. They don't expect to win anything, so they're like, okay, we hate our quarterback, but we're doing pretty good at the moment. So, like, they were very happy that their quarterback is done for the year, and I'm not going to even say his name. And
he that shall not be named.
The quarterback formerly known as, he's making phone calls for massages at home now, and I think for that franchise, they were very happy that they got it. And so good for them. Like, they don't think they're going to win the Super Bowl, but I still think Cowboys fans, like, they win a game and they think that they're the world champions.
We're back. We them boys.
Roger Staubach's coming out of retirement, and they're going to win the Super Bowl. I mean, it's just kind of funny to me. But there was a lot of weird games this weekend, as always.
Absolutely.
I mean, I really wanted the Patriots to beat the Dolphins just because
to play spoiler.
Yeah, just to kind of because I knew that it would be like we almost would have clinched, right?
That would have been, I think, the clinching scenario if the Bills.
We only would have to win.
Yep, they wouldn't have needed.
We would
the
just need to
Dolphins
win one more game at some point, and they wouldn't be able to. I mean, I don't think who cares. It's so darn early. Right. It's not like you can do anything.
December football's right around the corner. It's going
to be interesting because like. we've not been great at home in December because of weather and stuff like that. And I want to see if we've gotten better at playing in wintry. We have a better running game now, which will help us. I want to see our defense be better in the winter. So
they timed it differently with there's not a lot of home games left. They have this one on Sunday, and you know what? There is a chance of lake effect snow. I've been watching the weather because, especially now that I work right next to the stadium, I'm watching that. But there's a chance for lake effect snow on Sunday, and that's going to be the first time we see a snow game. But then the Bills go on this 1-2. They take a 2-game week, and then they have just 2 games. They have 2 games in late December, and that's it. So you're kind of missing the bulk of the wintry games. I mean, we'll obviously.
But Detroit comes in Detroit.
In Detroit, and they have a dome,
which is good for them.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be a great game, and that could be legitimately a preview of the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
As well as anything.
Exactly.
And good for Detroit. I mean, Detroit's one of those teams that we don't know much about them. We never really they've never been a rival, so to speak.
I root for them. I love watching. They're a fun team to watch, and Dan Campbell as a coach, he's must see TV.
Older people, that are older than me, we have a weird thing about Detroit, though. Do you want to know why?
Why is that?
Because Ralph Wilson, was from Detroit, and there was always this I'm probably going to say this wrong, but there was always this kind of feeling like he would have rather owned the Lions. Yeah. It felt like he couldn't own by the Lions. I don't remember if this is accurate, but there was this thing where he would always go back to Detroit. He was in Detroit all the time. Why is he in Detroit? He should be here. Because he wasn't in every game. And in the 90s he was, but in many ways, he was a very hands-off owner.
Yeah.
In my time frame, when I was a kid watching, O.J. Simpson and Joe Ferguson and stuff, it always felt like he really wasn't involved in the team. He became involved in the team when they got Jim Kelly.
Yep.
And then he suddenly realized he was getting old and he wanted to win something. He brought Marv Levy in, and then he became much more. And I will say that Ralph Wilson, as he got older with the success of the Bills, he became very more vested in the Buffalo, Western New York area. His family has the Ralph Wilson Legacy Charity, and they give a lot back now. But when we were kids, we always felt like he just didn't really care that much about the Bills. And at some point he decided he cared.
Hey,
so it is kind of funny. So I remember a lot of when I was a kid, a lot of us didn't like Detroit because we always kind of felt like he liked Detroit better, even though he owned our team. There was a lot of
the middle child,
for that type of thing. But
that's the reason why they face the Lions in preseason every year.
Yeah,
it's because of Ralph Wilson.
Yeah.
So before we go on to the game, I just want to take a minute and shout out one of my partners in Underdog Fantasy. We're proud to be partnering with Underdog Sports, my favorite place to play fantasy games. You got to check out their pick'em. So easy to play. Just pick 2 to 10 stats of your favorite players and choose whether they'll go higher or lower. You can 100 times your money by going up to 10 for 10. If that sounds like fun, download their app and sign up today using my code Big YAC. That's BIGYAC to get your first deposit of up to $100 matched. Can't wait to see your entries. And not only Underdog Fantasy has been such a great sponsor for me. I mean, we're nearing on 2 years of that partnership. So huge shout out to them, and always thankful for all the work that they give me and all the materials that they've been able to provide me with. I also want to shout out SeatGeek, which is my favorite place to buy tickets. Use code Big YAC Podcast for $20 off of your first order. The SeatGeek app has an amazing grading system for their tickets. You take a look at any seat in the house, and they're going to give a grade out of 100 based on your seat versus its value in terms of price and where it's located at in the stadium. So you really get a great idea of what you're sitting and if you're getting a good deal or not. So check out SeatGeek today. Again, that's Big YAC Podcast. Use that code to get $20 off your first order. So let's talk about what we have going on this week. Obviously, we have Thanksgiving.
Yep.
So, Thanksgiving is it's a classic. Even before I was really kind of focused on the football.
Oh, yeah,
I was really, it wasn't until I was probably 14 or 15 years old that I
Do you
really
have a
started
big
paying
Thanksgiving?
attention.
Like, is there a lot of people at your Thanksgiving?
No, and that's what I kind of like
Oh,
about
okay.
it a lot. It's always on the my dad's side of the family.
Right.
We always go there, and there's only usually 8 to 10 of us max, which is nice. Christmas is where it gets crazy.
Right.
We go from house to house and visit my entire large family on both sides on Christmas.
Oh,
But
right,
Thanksgiving has always been a more of a relaxed holiday, and I know it's nice for me, especially because the general idea of Thanksgiving is big, crazy. You see all these relatives that you
Right.
sometimes don't even want to see, but the memories for me on Thanksgiving, even before I was a big NFL fan, was spending the day with your family, watching the Thanksgiving Day parade, and having football all day.
Yeah, I
spending
remember getting
time
up to
and-
watch the Macy's parade when I was a kid. You know, looking for underdog and some of the balloons from the past, and and then growing up, we had a big thing. When I was a kid, we always went to my aunt's house down Lewiston. There was always a lot of people. It was
Yep.
like 2 tables. There was a kids table, but we all like hung out in my aunt's family room to watch whatever one of the games, whichever game was on. Usually I think we would watch the first game and then eat after the first game. Sort of, I think is what it was. So now we're a little bit smaller, and football's not as much of a thing on Thanksgiving. Certainly not the afternoon games. The night game. Now that there's a night game. I'm sure we'll be like Zach. I'm sure my son Zach and I will be watching because that's the Dolphins game is the night game,
Yep.
right?
Yeah. So that
So-
slate of games is.
Yeah. So we have Bears and Lions. That should be an interesting.
That's
game.
gonna be. I mean, hey, division
You know.
game. Lions will make it fun, and it's
Yeah.
always fun seeing number 1 overall pick playing these
Giants
big
and
games.
Cowboys. That's the most NFL game of all time, right? Is there anything better than a Giants Cowboys game? I mean, if the Cowboys lose this game at home against
the Tommy DeVito
Yes.
New York
yes,
Giants.
this incarnation of the Giants. I mean, so neither one of these games look like they're going to be great.
It looks like I'll
but
be
I
eating
think
at
the Dolphins
4:30.
Packers game is a great game.
That's a phenomenal game.
That's a great game. I'm looking forward to the regular Thursday night game.
Yes. Yeah. It seems like everyone will be eating at 4:30.
Yeah.
right when the Cowboys and the Giants
I
kick
think,
off.
yeah, I don't know if we've set our dinner time yet, but,
Try to set it around
yeah.
there.
yeah, I think I don't know what the I don't know what the over is in the Lions,
So
but I would take
we'll
the
talk about
Lions.
that.
Yeah.
So, Bears at Lions. The Lions are 10.5-point favorites right now against the Bears, which
Yeah,
is
I'd bet
crazy.
the spread. I'd bet the
48.5 is
spread.
the
I'd bet
over and
the
under.
spread. I just for fun because I think the Lions are that good. They're home. I just think like Thanksgiving. I just think that they know this is. Remember a couple years ago when Buffalo had that first Thanksgiving game and they just showed up.
Yep.
And I think this is the Lions. Like people don't really watch us.
Yeah, right.
So I think if you're a Lions, if you're in that organization, you're like, we got to show. We got to show up. This is our chance to really, to jump into the national conversation of that we're a team. We're here now. And I that's kind of reminds I remember a couple years ago, like when I think it was with that first year they won the division. I think that was wasn't that the Thanksgiving game when Josh just went off.
That was the big one against the Cowboys.
Yeah.
It was 2019.
Yeah, and I think that was like here we are, and I think Detroit's going to have a kind of a similar thing for us this because I mean last year they were good, but nobody really thought they were going to do anything.
Yep.
With this year, everybody's kind of talking about them, so I think that they're just not working, huh?
Nothing.
Let's put a poster up next week. So.
You're gonna have to pull out the Big YAC
we'll put
Podcast
big
banner.
sticker, big piece of paper. So
the Lions are 10.5 point
What are you
favorites.
gonna do? You gonna bet that? If you were
You know what?
betting-
I'm trying to put together. I haven't pieced it all up yet. I've been doing a lot of those same day. Like I get the hunch same day. So I'm looking at this. I'm trying to put together a parlay across all 3 games for Thanksgiving. Make it fun. Make it fun for the whole game. I'm taking a look at touchdown scorers. I think
Okay.
Amon-Ra St. Brown is due for a touchdown. DJ Moore has finally woken back up for the Bears. I think those are two anytime touchdown scorer props that you could probably get decent money on. I mean, right now, Amon-Ra is at a minus 120, and
Right.
DJ Moore is at plus 210. So plus 210, I think, is fantastic money for DJ Moore to score a touchdown. That's bet $10. You win 21. You take home. So you put in $10, you get back $31. So I like that one a lot. I think that would probably be my lock of the week, a DJ Moore touchdown, especially against this Lions secondary, which can be a little questionable at times.
Yeah, right. Makes sense.
So moving on to the Cowboys and the Giants game. The Cowboys are 3.5-point favorites at home. Sadly, over under is 37.5.
They're playing a backup quarterback. The coach is literally he went to the liquor store to get empty boxes so he can pack up his office. He's right, because when you're moving, you're like, stop by the liquor store and get some extra boxes for your personal collect stuff that we have to move when you get fired. So yeah, part of me feels like, which is a shame, because I think he made a terrible decision too. His quarterback was going to be, but I think the Giants, the fact that there was the 3.5.
3.5, yep.
I think the Cowboys will cover this.
I think the Cowboys win and cover. Just coming off of that big win against the Commanders, again, doesn't really mean
It's a
anything. This
division
season's over
game.
with.
They
Cowboys it's Thanksgiving. And again, going back to your point, is in the reverse, where everyone knows the Cowboys, everyone watches the Cowboys on Thanksgiving.
Yes.
They are,
unfortunately,
they are the team when it comes to Thanksgiving. And you know what? The Cowboys game on Thanksgiving, I might be wrong on this, but I'm pretty sure it's up there. I think the Cowboys game on Thanksgiving is the most watched game every year outside of playoffs. So like most watched regular season game. Thanksgiving, I had to write about this earlier this week. So Thanksgiving dominates the ratings every single year in terms of NFL games. Every year it makes sense.
Makes sense.
The Thanksgiving game is always the most
Even
watched
if you're
regular
not
season game.
watching it, it's on.
There are, on
what I mean?
average, 26 million
Yeah.
viewers or so on
Yeah.
that, which that's 26 million TVs on in
That's a
America
lot.
to CBS,
TVs.
to Fox, to
Yeah.
to NBC for the late game. But the Cowboys, no matter how good or bad they are, every single year they're going to have 20+ million people watching this game, and I think they're going to know it. And I think that whole team knows it. I think it's almost
They kind of all know they're in a tough spot.
Yep. The pride is on the line at this point.
Yeah, they're a lot of them are playing to like be around.
Yes.
Coaches. That whole coaching staff. It's not just McCarthy, right? It's just all of them. Because if he's gone, they're all gone.
Yep.
So, and they've looked bad at times, like awful. So they're all playing for their jobs. And then I think there's a lot of players on this team. He can't keep going and saying, "Oh, well, we'll just make a couple changes and I'll pay too much for something, and we'll be better next year." I think even he's recognizing that he's going to have to make some changes.
It's time. Yeah.
Or he needs to get out of the way and let somebody else in his family run this team, because he's because get a better general manager or something, because he's always prided himself as being involved as the owner and all that crap.
Need a better GM.
He needs to get a better GM. So, but anything particular if you were doing anything from that you
Again, if I'm sticking to the theme of anytime touchdown scores, I'm looking at CeeDee Lamb. CeeDee Lamb has been the one bright spot for this Dallas Cowboys team, outside of Micah Parsons, of course, now that he's returned from injury. But CeeDee Lamb has been kind of the face of the franchise, especially with Dak Prescott down.
What do you have, like completions, touchdowns, yards?
I like anytime touchdown. Anytime touchdown, I think, is a great one for him. Currently, right now, there isn't a line set yet for CeeDee Lamb receiving yards. Cooper Rush is questionable for this game already, so their backup quarterback is questionable for this game, so that plays into the line a little bit. But again, I think this team's going to be ready, and I think it's going to be a win. Definitely, I think it's going to be a pretty dominant Cowboys win.
Yeah, I think so.
Moving on to the best game slate of the day, Miami at Green Bay. Miami at Green Bay. the over-under is set at 47.5, so Vegas is predicting a high-scoring game.
Right.
Packers are 3.5-point favorites in Lambeau.
Packers win this game.
Think so.
Yeah.
The only thing that
I
makes
could
me
see
hesitant,
it coming down to a field goal.
Yep.
So I don't know if I would. I'd probably. I think this will be a game within a field goal. So I wouldn't bet.
I would take
I wouldn't
Lions
bet
with
the
point,
over.
or I would take Miami with the points here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
They'll
think-
cover the spread. It may be like a field goal. It might be like a 27, 24 type
That's what
thing.
I'm
like
looking at.
like
The thing that's making me hesitant, and the thing that's making me kind of like Miami in this, is how desperate they are. The Packers, they're going to make the playoffs. The NFC is soft. There's a big drop off in the NFC, and the Packers are one of those teams above that line.
But the Dolphins are not. Yeah, they're kind of getting their bearings and stuff like that. But it just now they're on the road.
Yeah.
It's a short week.
Might snow in Lambeau.
It's cold. Like, I'm sorry, it's still Lambeau in November. It's cold. I don't know what the weather will be. But they're not. They just don't. I mean, I know it's not cold, but it's a night game. They're used to it's always 80, right? I mean, like your body, go on vacation for a week, right? Like go to Vegas for a week or on spring break or something, right? And then get off the plane in Buffalo in
You're
April,
smacked in the
and it's
face.
50, and it feels like you're back, and it's like wintertime again, right? It's just your body gets accustomed to that. You don't warm up quickly. Even like here, when we have that first cold of the year, like
Yep.
that first couple of days, oh my God, it's so cold. If we have that same cold day in February, we don't feel it as much. That's just February. But like when it's that first cold day, and I feel that affects them.
I'll give you a stat to back this claim up. Tua Tagovailoa is currently 0-7 in games played where the weather is below 33 degrees.
Right.
You know what the temperature is going to be in Lambeau?
Yep.
26.
Yeah, because it's a night game, so the sun's not out, so they're not even getting ambient heat or anything from the sun or anything. So it's colder. I mean, I used to hate the night games back in the days when I used to go to the games, in the
Tyreek
fall.
Hill has said in the past,
Like,
I
ugh.
hate playing in the cold games.
Yeah.
No player likes to play
Our
in the
season
cold.
tickets back in the 90s were on the visitor side, about the 20-yard line, which was great because we were in the sun.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, even in the fall when it was still hot, it was still nice. It was
Yeah.
never like we were never like it's too hot because we knew in 3 months we'd be freezing. So, but I remember being at some games in December and it was like a 1 o'clock game, and it was but it snowed, but it was so much reflection off of the snow and everything. And it was just sunny, like the sky, because it had snowed. The cloud, there was not a cloud in the sky, so it was like you take your hat off, and it was probably only 40, but it felt like it was 60 because you got all that ambient heat and the sun's out. But at night, no. So I feel like they're going to struggle. Like it's a short week for them too.
Yep.
They had to travel, right?
Yes.
They're not home for Thanksgiving. They're they're on the road. That's a tougher thing for the team. It just is.
Yeah, I like Miami keeping it close, but ultimately, if I were to put money on the team winning, it would be Green Bay.
Right.
The prop that I like here is a Jalen Waddle anytime touchdown. Actually, he's been heating
Okay.
up for them in the last couple weeks.
Yeah.
He's having the kind
I
of
can
best
believe
couple
that.
game stretch of his season so far,
Yep.
and his odds are sitting at plus 230 for a touchdown. So
Yep.
again, I like the money for the return. Moving on, there's just a couple other games that I want to touch up on in the week that are marquee. So going into Sunday, there's actually a Black Friday game this year.
Yeah, that's the game I want to talk about for a couple seconds.
It's the Raiders and the Chiefs. So
What's the over on this one?
the over-under is 42.5. The Chiefs are 13.5-point favorites.
They're not going to cover that.
13.5-point
lot.
favorites is a ton for a
That's a
team
lot.
that's barely won by 2 scores. There's
The
let's
Raiders
see.
aren't great, but I don't know. Are they that bad?
The Chiefs have only won by 2 scores twice all season. It was a 13-point victory against the Saints.
Who's showing up on the Chiefs to suddenly play great that hasn't?
Exactly.
Is there somebody trending on the Chiefs that I'm not thinking of?
No, you're not. DeAndre Hopkins has been heating up
He's
as
fine.
of late, but again,
Yeah.
it's you take a look at the last time they faced the Raiders in Vegas. Chiefs won 27-20. They did not cover. The Chiefs have been not great
maybe
against
Travis
the spread
will have a
this year.
great game. there's all that funny stuff because what's her name wasn't at the game.
Taylor Swift.
I was one of the conspiracy folks, by the way, real quick, that when they did the Bills schedule,
They looked at.
that it lined up with her tour and that she was in Toronto.
She didn't even show up.
She didn't even show up.
She didn't show up because she had such a bad experience the first time in Buffalo. The Bills fans booed her. They booed her out of the stadium. And now watch. I don't think she'll ever tour and come to Buffalo. I don't think it's going to happen.
Which is a shame for Buffalo because that's a lot of money. Broke all kinds of records. I mean, it's just I hate it. It's stupid, but it was one of those funny things. But I think the NFL did consider that. I wouldn't be surprised if the Buffalo says, "Well, she's in Toronto.
It makes money to build ratings."
Maybe she'll come to the game."
Exactly.
Okay.
So the Chiefs have been horrible to bet for this year. They are 4-6-1 against the spread this season.
So avoid this.
I'm
what you're saying.
staying
Don't
away
bet
from
the
this.
Chiefs.
Don't bet the Chiefs. I would honestly look at that 13.5 point spread for the Raiders and take it. I don't even like looking at this game because
there's a lot of games that I don't care about.
Yeah, you know what?
I could care less. No offense to I like the Colts, but no offense to the Colts and the Patriots. I don't. The Chargers and the Falcons I don't care about. Seahawks and the Jets. That's just. I'm sorry to anyone who has to watch that game. What do you think of the Titans-Commanders game?
The Titans-Commanders game is going to be interesting only because I think the Commanders need a get-right game. They're not looking as hot as they did to start the year. Jaden Daniels needs to get his confidence back. 5.5 point favorites in Washington, I think, is a little low.
Yep.
I think that Washington wins this game by 2 scores.
Steelers and Bengals looks like a great game.
Steelers-Bengals. It would be, you know what, if I wish that the Bengals still had playoff hopes because this game would have been a huge matchup. It would have been one of the best games to watch.
It's still this Bengals are playing for something.
But any AFC North game, any AFC North matchup is much CTV.
At the very least, I'm kind of rooting for the Bengals just to mess with the Steelers a little bit.
Yeah.
I want the Steelers banged up when they get to the playoffs.
That's exactly it.
I want them to have because again they got to we're going to probably have to see them. I mean, there's a good chance that we'll have to see them again.
100%. Arizona and Minnesota is actually a really great game to take a look at.
I can't name 5 players on those teams. I don't know.
It's the NFC. Well,
I never see NFC games. I forgot that guy. If you name play, that's right. I mean, obviously no Justin Jefferson, but okay, but I just can't think of. I just never, and they're never on TV. I don't think I ever the Cardinals. I don't watch. I don't know what's Red Zone. I don't watch. I don't watch too much of that. I usually just bounce. I'm old man. I switch channels. So
you have your own Red Zone.
I just
called
do
the TV remote.
last. I just bounce between those 2 games, whatever they're on. But NFC is just kind of tough to follow because we just don't see them very often.
Arizona. They're 6-5. They're actually currently first place in the NFC West. So they're playing with their backs against the wall, trying to win the NFC West.
Right.
And Minnesota, Minnesota's 9-2 right now.
Yeah.
So they have.
If I was Minnesota, I'd be kind of frustrated by the fact that nobody's talking about us.
Yeah.
Everybody's in love with Detroit, and no one's even talking about Minnesota. Right? It's they might as well have just it's not like we're not far behind them.
Right. They're only a game back.
Yeah, they're a game back. Right. It's just kind of funny, but
That's going to be an interesting matchup. I think that'll help with seeding in the NFC.
Yep.
And then there's a potential other Super Bowl preview in the Eagles at the Ravens. The Eagles have been the second best team in the NFC. And you could make a case, especially coming off of this week, that they are the best team in the NFC ahead of the Lions.
The Eagles, to me, are everybody who ever ran for president and lost. Pretty much you should just go home. And you're not going to win. I just don't think the Eagles are winning the Super Bowl. I just don't think they're just not that good.
Yeah.
They're winning games, don't get me wrong. They're a very good team. I just don't think they're a champion caliber team. I just don't think they are.
They're riding the back of Saquon Barkley through these last however many weeks, and he's truly looking like an
And you
MVP.
get to a point in the season where other guys have to be great.
Yep.
How often do you watch, playoff games in the NFL, and it's the quarterback is obviously a different scenario, but other guys are the guys that show up. Sometimes it's the tight end, or sometimes it's it's a defensive player, or a running back that has to step in because the other guy is hurt. It's really, to me, like
Right. Every
the
team is
depth
going
of
to
your
take a
team.
look.
It's depth of your team, and
Every team knows they're going to have to stop Saquon Barkley.
You get far enough in the season, you're playing teams that know how to stop the run. You know what I mean? Like, that's what it comes down to. I mean, Buffalo's had that problem at times. I feel like that, we were tearing it up against teams that didn't have much of a secondary. Well, then you get to a point in the season where you're playing teams that have a good secondary, and and all of a sudden, oh my God, we're not scoring like we did. Well, yeah, because we're playing better teams now because we're in the playoffs.
Yep.
Or we're getting to that point in the year where we're playing some tougher teams now for whatever reason. It's just the way sometimes the schedule falls. So like it doesn't mean your team's not doing well. It just means you're just playing a better team.
Yep.
So eventually, someone's gonna they're gonna get to a point where one guy's not really enough.
Yeah. That's true.
They're not the team that they were a couple years ago, in my opinion.
That's a good point. Baltimore is just a 2.5
And
point favorite.
Baltimore's going to Baltimore. They're always like, right? They're good, but
They're right there.
Yeah,
they're always knocking at the door.
they just can't put it all together. A couple years ago, this 49ers game was the Super Bowl preview game.
Yes.
A couple years ago.
That wasn't too far behind, and the Bills smoked the 49ers that game, so let's hope history repeats itself.
What do you think about this game?
So the Bills are 6.5 point favorites. The over-under is set at 45.5.
Is Purdy better?
Brock Purdy
He
was
threw
throwing.
today.
Yep, you saw it. Yeah, you're keeping up on the news. Yeah, you're right
I
there.
Googled it.
They so he did some light throwing today, which is a positive sign for his playing on Sunday. As it currently stands, the early outlook says that he is going to play on Sunday. Now, granted, anything can change.
Yeah.
If it's Brandon Allen starting on Sunday, I think the Bills win this game by 2 scores. Brock Purdy, again, though, I don't think he's that much of a difference maker. I think the Buffalo wins this game, and I think they're going to kind of...
Buffalo has turned into a nice defensive system. You know what I mean? Like, some teams really require, the Steelers, certain teams are all centered around that one guy on defense.
Yeah.
Right? So, I can't think of a couple guys offhand, but even a couple years ago, Von Miller was our guy. Like, if Von Miller had a bad game or Milano had a bad game, we lost, right?
Yeah.
Now we've got a bunch of nobodies. Like, in many ways, we don't have a bunch of superstars on this defense. We don't. Maybe
It's
some
one
of them
unit.
are merging, like Bernard or, oh my God, like, I mean,
Taron Johnson
it's
right
a
now.
It's a great interception
Yep.
because he doesn't make that play. That's a catch,
Yes.
right?
Yep.
Kelsey's catching that ball.
Yep.
It's not bouncing off his hands. It was a good pass in the sense that
He just didn't see Bernard. That's what it came down to.
it was also 4th down.
Yeah.
And it's in the last 4 minutes or whatever it was. So let's be honest. Like, he has to throw that pass. Even he knows he has to throw that pass. He has to try to make something happen. I don't think that's an interception that happens in the second quarter.
Right.
That's an interception that happens when you're down by 10.
Team's desperate and ready to.
That he's got to try to make something happen. And Bernard, to his credit, he made something happen. And how many games have we were saying we need a defensive stop here? We need a defensive stop. And we got one. And that is something that, I mean, but and don't get me wrong, Bernard's a great player, but nobody calls him like the top 5, safety? Linebacker. Nobody considers him the top 5 linebacker in the league.
Right.
Nobody does. And I don't think Buffalo has anybody on their defense that's probably ranked top 5.
Right.
Is there guys on that defense that will go to the Pro Bowl?
The only one that's making a stand right now is Terrell Bernard, and that's where we're at right now.
Right.
Where it's
Which is funny because they've only lost 2 games.
Yeah, exactly. And the point differential is, they have the second best point differential in the league minus the Detroit Lions.
Should stand for something, but that's not the way people get
Man,
selected.
you can't
for
send
the Pro
coaches
Bowl.
to the Pro Bowl,
That's
right?
not the way. That's not the way things work. And well, that guy's got a name that I've heard of. Like, and that's how the players vote. We know that. Like, the guys that should have made the Pro Bowl it's always a year behind. Guy had a good season last year. He'll get the next year because by the time the players aren't watching a lot.
Right.
I don't think they watch a lot. They don't have the time.
Yeah.
Like, they're not there. I'm sure there's some guys are study the game. And they're watching gameplay, but they're not watching every game. They're mainly focused on, like, right? I don't believe there's a bunch of Bills players. Well, this weekend they got to watch football, but a typical weekend, you're probably not watching that much.
Yeah.
If maybe your division rivals playing, I guess if it's a Thursday night game, let's just say maybe this week, will probably watch the Dolphins play on Thanksgiving night. They'll at home with their families or wherever they are, right?
Yeah.
But they're not watching the 4:00 game. If they play a 1:00 game, they're in the shower.
Right.
They're in press conferences. They're driving home. Their family came to town or whatever it is, right?
Or even if they're not going to be watching
right.
Sunday's games
Yeah.
either. They're going to be getting
they're
ready
probably
for the
exhausted.
game.
They're probably asleep on the couch like me, and then maybe they watch the Monday night game.
And you know what?
right?
The players that I've talked to too, like players that I've spoken to in the past, a lot of them don't really keep up with watching it because they're so focused in their own game and their own craft right now.
Yeah. It's not the kind of sport where you can. Yes, during the week you're preparing for the 49ers, so you're watching a lot of game film about 49ers, but you're not watching the game. You're watching. If you're a cornerback, you're watching the guys that you're going to be going up at. You have a guy that's broken down in the video department that has isolated all these things, and you can watch it from 5 different angles, and that's what you're doing. Like you're watching that. That's what you're watching.
And especially in this week in particular, so I do some business with a Bills player's chef. I see him probably a couple times a week, and it's kind of cool. It gives me kind of a good insight on kind of like what they're doing on a daily basis. Oh, he's eating this week. That's pretty cool. Yeah. But he, so what the chef was saying to me just today is this player is having all of his family over for Thanksgiving this weekend because you're on Thanksgiving Day. Your mindset and your body, you don't want to stuff yourself Thursday, even Thursday for Sunday. You don't want to even take that risk. You're having all your Thanksgiving celebrations early in the week because you can focus then on the game later in the week. So so even then on their bye week, they're not really watching these games. They're
right. I feel like they're not. They're, and if anything, like take a break. Like you need to. I feel like you're gonna. So I guess that we went off on that weird tangent about guys making the Pro Bowl, but I feel like the Bills are kind of an underappreciated defensive team, and it's I kind of like that nobody's talking about Buffalo. I kind of really like it because that is hard to avoid.
Yeah,
they're seeing that shit. All teams are seeing that shit. They know. They're on Twitter, and
but to target on
some of the guys probably aren't on purpose, but I would imagine there's enough guys that are following that shit that they're having that moment where like what do you mean? And that's good for them. It fires them up as opposed to like feeling like that people think that they're. Everybody can handle the press, that positive press the wrong way.
Yep.
Start believing your own press, so to speak. So.
But that's all I got for you today. Once again, thank you for coming on and filling in and talking to Merge. And
I appreciate it.
It's been a great one as always.
The thing's going well with the writing.
Yeah. I haven't really got to talk about it much on here, but Sports Illustrated, they're really good to me right now, and they give me a lot of creative freedom to just write.
That's a lot of
congratulations.
I'm really happy for you. I mean, it's nice to see folks that are putting again, I said at the beginning of the show, it's nice to see people that are putting in the time. All these things that build your resume, so to speak.
Exactly. If
it
it wasn't
work
for
ethic,
Emerge, I wouldn't have gotten this role. I truly believe that.
Yeah, I think like it shows this guy's like he's not just talking about trying to get into this stuff. He's spending time. He's not really. It's not a. You're not getting an endorsement deal from Syracuse to wear that hat or anything like that, right? They're not calling you up, so giving you free merch or something, which he would wear though, because he spent enough money to go there. So send him a fucking sweatshirt, will you? He'd wear it, You guys got him. You got enough of them.
That's all I ask.
Send him a couple sweatshirts. This one's the orange one. The Nike one's not even branded.
It's just
orange. It's not even. It's the right one. It might not even be the right orange. It's a little too red. A little rusty. But no, this stuff is fun for me. I'm having a good time. I appreciate getting. I don't think I know anything about sports. Not like you guys do. I know more conceptually. I don't know the ins and outs and stuff.
have
But
the-
my fantasy team's doing pretty well.
You guys are number 1 in the league right now.
No,
in the
I'm not
Emerge League
number
right
one.
now?
No,
You're,
the Emerge team is. We lost every. Okay, this is where again I don't know anything about sports. I did not think about the problem of that.
Of the bye week?
Everybody was going to be on. My 5 best players were all on a bye this week. So
You know what? Sometimes it's a strategy in of itself because then it's like you can put all your eggs in this basket. You guarantee this loss, but then
But I had
you're
lost.
set.
I'd won 5 in a row, so I think I'm in the top 4.
You are.
I mean, I'm going to lose today.
You're number 2. Next of kin is 8-3, only behind Jules.
But I'm going to
For
lose
Jules.
this week.
Yeah,
I'm
going
gonna
to
lose.
You already. You've
So
already
and
been
a couple.
smoked.
So I'm in the top 4. I think I'm pretty well set for the playoffs. And I had a couple injuries and stuff too. I had what's his face, wide receiver that broke his leg in a nothing play. What was his name? Remember, like the game was over and they were still trying the. He broke his leg.
Oh, Eckler?
No, not Eckler. I can't think. I dropped him. I had to drop him, but he helped me that week. But then like the game was over, and then he was I can't even think what it was, but he broke his leg in a nothing play at the end of the game when his team had already lost, so I had to drop him. But I don't know. And last year I think it was in last place. So it shows that you don't have to be. And this is a 12-team league. This isn't like a 16 league.
No, you're right up there.
This
I'm
isn't-
on the outside looking in, and I have a football podcast.
That's
I'm the
that's
first
my
team
point.
out.
Anybody, it doesn't mean it. And so people said like people ask me all the, I have one fantasy team every year. A couple years I did a couple. So some people are like looking at stuff like Zach's got one with his friends, and there's a guy and he's got like spreadsheets and crap. And I also the only thing I did differently this year is I did not take the obvious guy.
Yeah.
And I did not. My second quarterback ended up being. I ended up because I took a chance on Richardson.
Yeah.
And he obviously did not work out, so I haven't started him. But I've been using Stafford, and Stafford was my second, and he's done very well for me. And then I did very well with my wide receivers. My wide receivers are all doing very well. So I've had ridiculous
Jamar Chase,
things. Yeah, like
Drake London.
Yeah.
Both of those have. I just right offhand, I know they have had pop-offs of
I
games.
mean, I've had some games where like, holy shit, like where I was I think one of them hit one night. I had a Thursday night game and they went off on a Thursday night game, and I think I was already at like 80% chance to win before a game was played on Sunday. It was one of those types of weeks. But I mean, it just proves that anybody can win in fantasy.
Yeah.
Because
That's exactly it.
I think that's there's a lot of knowledgeable people in that league too.
There are. I mean, we're talking. We got Trap Nerd. We have. Let's see. We have Billsaholic,
Yep.
Tank Talk, Stiggs, among
Chris Dens
others.
knows the stuff. Don knows the stuff.
Yep.
Obviously Duke knows the stuff. I mean, we're probably Jordan knows the stuff. He runs the team for 716. So, yeah. I mean, I'm having a great time. I'm enjoying spending all this time podcasting. Like, I mean, I sit over there on Sundays with the 716th, and we've been reacting to the DC animated movies.
Yeah.
And I can't believe the amount of people that enjoy watching us watch a movie that came out in like 2011. Like I said, I was shocked that we did as well, that we're getting like 5,000-6,000 views on some of these videos. But they, again, credit to the guys in 716th. They put in the work. They have a variety of content, whether it's reacting to the Penguin or they're reacting to what's it called, the Disney Marvel show, and then the reactions, and then they're also playing D&D sometimes, and again, Christian and I have been working on getting our stuff going again. So there's a lot. If you go to moranomedia.com, you can see all the great podcasts. There's a tab with all the asterisk teams, all the pods that we have, and I check them out because I appreciate all of you guys for Thanksgiving. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So always thank you everyone for turning in. Thank you, Moranto, with you right in front of me. I don't have to thank you from a distance. Thank you for thank you for all that you do. Thank you to Emerge.
Thank you, Mateo.
Thank you, Mateo. Shout out to Mateo, really stepping in on a day that we don't typically record and plugging in for us. Thank you, Matt Johnson, BICBP Radio Network, and thank you to everyone that's listening. We will see you guys next week for the next episode of Big YAC Podcast. Thanks so much.
Thanks. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I don't know what